So there was a question. Looking forward to hearing thoughts of people who landed in Canada in 2024. The news of how Canada is becoming unaffordable for new immigrants seems to be increasing. I'm hearing about high housing costs and other living expenses, as well as how hard it is to find a suitable job after landing. Plus, I've heard and read a lot about how difficult it is to find a family doctor now. I've come across many articles and posts from people where it seems like Canada is unable to handle the influx of immigrants. Well qualified and experienced people are unable to get a job in their field for even up to a year or more. The whole NOC and in demand occupation system seems to be becoming irrelevant once people have come to Canada, especially for people who come from third world countries where the Canadian dollar to local currency exchange rate is high. It means that unless you already have some family or friends to support you after arriving in Canada, you'd be burning millions of your hard earned money before getting a job that puts you in a low to mediocre lifestyle in Canada. So, looking at this post, I see that this person has got an impression of Canada and how life in Canada is for new immigrants based on how people are projecting things on their social media platforms, including Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube in particular. I daily come across such posts where people are telling negative things about Canada and how the joblessness and housing crisis has impacted their state of mind, and how the setting in of winters has kind of taken away from them the little bit of happiness that was cultivating inside them just for the sense of achievement of getting the Canadian PR. But all in all, I think Canada is a country that provides different people with different experiences. I think it's people who react to situations in different ways, and that kind of decides how their experience is gonna be in Canada. Because when I came in Canada with my family in February 2023, for a good month and a half, it seemed like the chances of me getting employed here were very limited, and the hope was dwindling, and so were our finances. The only money that we had brought in Canada with us was the proof of funds that was very insubstantial considering the high cost of living in Canada. Talking about my family size, we were a family of four, brought $24,733 with us in proof of funds. That was a requirement of the time. And you can understand when you have to pay the first and last month's rent upfront in Ontario, and even if we were able to find a basement for 1800, that meant spending 3600 straight up in in the rent, right? So take away 3600 from 25,000 in total. That leaves you with somewhat like $21,400, right? So now we have to see what Canada has to offer us while we have only $21,400 with us. But yes, the Canada Child Benefit is a ray of hope for new immigrants that bring their families in Canada, because that at least helps people bring food to the table while they are jobless, and that is at least good for buying the grocery. Long as, like, even if you start very mediocre or low, it can contribute up to 50% of your monthly expenditure. So that's substantial, much like a lifeline for new immigrants that bring families in Canada. But having said that, as far as the job is concerned, I think it's pretty much an individual's skill to find a job. I think it's not just Canada that has a bit less of jobs these months or years ever since Corona struck the world. I guess wherever one goes, whether it is the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, even your countries back home, you need to do something and try to uh, become more prominent than the competitors, the other people applying for the same positions that you are interested in. So yes, it takes building the right kind of resume as well as the right kind of persona and the right kind of projection and use of the right kinds of means and methods and engines to land good opportunities for yourself. Persistence is a key here for one, for sure. And then building the right resume and projecting yourself in a way that makes the hiring team sense competence in you and relevance of your skills to the work that is required from you in a certain job post. Along with that, I think the number of applications you make every day also has a key role to play in it, because some people just make one application a day and think they are doing their bit. But trust me, for newbies, making even 30 applications a day might be insufficient because there is so much competition around you trying to achieve the same thing that you are striving for, that you need to go not only one but several miles in addition to what you're already doing in order to distinguish yourself from others and make your efforts bear fruit. So I guess finding a job is an individual thing and it depends upon a lot of factors. But saying that Canada has no jobs to offer now is a little too far fetched from reality. I guess you have to be ready to take up any kind of work for the timing, because if you don't do that and you're just aiming for a certain kind of job, then you might just exhaust all your resources. You become a scene for people. You come across as a person who put so much effort and was finally able to make it as well, because people back home, like in those third world countries, see somebody going abroad as achieving a very big thing, because it's especially now that so many restrictions are being put in place. Uh, People think that it's a privilege for somebody to be able to achieve this kind of thing, which is called a permanent residence of Canada or Australia or New Zealand or any such country. And yes, I guess in these problematic times and troublesome years, if you are able to craft an additional option for yourself in terms of getting another country's citizenship, you brighten up prospects for yourself, for life, as well as for your family. And so many doors of opportunities are there. Even if temporarily there's a lot of fog, eventually dust is gonna settle down and you'd see yourself settling down. But as long as you're persistent in your efforts and you're trying hard, God brought you to Canada for a purpose. Things just don't happen out of thin air. There's so much effort put into things and people strive for these things. I was going through a post recently and it mentioned there are two kinds of people in this world. One kind is that waits for the path to become clear before they would start walking, and the other kind just starts walking and the path gets defined as they go itself on its own. So I'd say us, we were the second kind of people who weren't sure what we were gonna do in Canada, who had nobody in Canada, and who didn't even research enough to know which city would be best for us to land in. We just made the move and I just started applying, and I was able to find a job. So we just moved on. Path was not clear. The path from the time of our landing in Canada, since then it's being defined, and still, if you ask me now, as of today, what do I see what I'd be doing 2 years from now or 3 years from now, I don't know. I don't know. We plan things one way, life happens another way. Things are beyond our control. We can only try this much, and then it's life that happens.